Congratulations to the Texas Rangers. They've won their first World Series. They've been an organization since 1961. It was a long wait. And then you move back about 10 plus years ago, where they had two opportunities to win the World Series and they were not able to. And that's what makes it sweeter. I can say that from a Giants fan perspective. We lost in 2002, but made 2010 and the wait all that much better. The painful losses, and they had that in 2010 to my Giants and Bruce Bochy. They lost in 5 games, but then the one that was more painful was the following year. I mean, you lose back-to-back seasons. In 2011, you lose in 7 games when you're up 3-2 against the Cardinals. But they finally do it this year. And I'm not going to talk about this so much from just a team-wide perspective. They were the best team in the playoffs, obviously. They were 11-0 on the road. This was a team that lost 102 games in 2021, 94 games in 2022. And the season did not go exactly as expected. I didn't think Bochy would be able to turn this thing around this fast. They make the big signing of Jacob deGrom, and he gets hurt early on in the season. And then they make other moves, bringing in Max Scherzer at the deadline, and then they got very little out of him in the postseason, and he missed a chunk of the end of the season as well, so they overcame that. They lost Garcia for a part of the World Series, Scherzer for a part of the World Series, yet they still won in 5 games. Well, I want to talk about this really from the career of Bruce Bochy and what that means. Someone I respect so much. I feel just from a winning perspective, he was the best thing that ever happened to the San Francisco Giants. You wouldn't have thought that. I respected Bochy when he came from San Diego, and he had the reputation of being a good manager, even though it didn't always produce wins, and he never won a World Series. Yet I remembered and I respected what he did in 1998 with the Padres. They just ran into one of the all-time great teams in the New York Yankees, and they got swept. What I saw from this season's team, and what I appreciate about the Bochy teams, going back to the Giants as well, is they do take on the personality of their manager. That was true of the Giants. I can't say I remember too much about the Padres in 98. With the Giants and now with the Rangers, they don't play tight in big games. I wouldn't say loose is the right word, but they're cool, they're calm, and they're prepared. And they take advantage of the other teams being tight, the other teams being on edge. The Rangers were the best team in the playoffs. There's no question about it. And their most difficult opponent was the Astros. Having to take down the Astros as they did. And it may have just ended the Astros' run. I mean, that's true. You look at Justin Verlander. He's 40 years old. Even Altuve, we think of Altuve being young, but he's heading into his mid-30s. I don't know if the Rangers have a run in them or not more than 1 year. I mean, honestly, if I was Bochy, I would probably retire after this. I always say, you go on and have such a long career, how many opportunities do you have as a manager or a player to finish on top? I mean, what's left to prove for someone like Bochy? At the same time, he's got a really good thing going in Texas, so keep going. It's not like whatever happens from here on is going to take away from his legacy. He wins his 4th World Series, so we talked about this before. 5 pennants now. He wins his 4th. That really puts him in an exclusive and select group of managers all time. In going back, let's say just 1990, the only manager that has won like he has is Joe Torre. Perhaps the only thing you could say that Bochy hasn't done is Bochy has not repeated. And how hard is that to do in baseball now that the season is so long? The regular season, it's 162, and then the playoffs are so long, and pitcher health is so difficult. And you even saw that with the Rangers, and they were able to overcome that with the way the playoffs are. And I'm just like, wow, 11 road games, and this series only went 5 games. Well, they went all 3, and they went to the max with the number of road games that they could have in this series, being the home team. Well, that would be the only thing that Bruce Bochy has not accomplished, is winning back-to-back or even getting to back-to-back World Series. As you know, with the Giants, it was 2010, they couldn't make it to the playoffs in 11, then they win in 2012, couldn't make it in the playoffs in 13, then they win in 2014, they got back to the playoffs in 2016, and since that 2010 mark, that's the only playoff series he lost, was 2016 to what would be the World Series champion Chicago Cubs, who were the team of destiny that year. He comes back 1 year out of his first year out of retirement, and he does it in the American League, and he does it in what we thought, well, not what I thought, but what many thought was a game that passed him by. He was from the old school, and what you need now was a new school, younger manager that embraced the new ways and more analytics. Well, Bochy proved him wrong, and he won anyway, and he won in his first year in the American League, and nearly 10 years after winning his last World Series in 2014, proving he can still get it done in today's game. So getting to World Series in the 90s, the 2010s, now 2020s, 3 different decades, 5 total World Series, 4 World Series championships, and as I said, ties Joe Torre for the most World Series championships since, let's just say, 1990. I'm looking from 1990 on, more than Bobby Cox, more than Tony La Russa. Well, I'm going back in the 80s a little bit there, as he now has more than Tony La Russa, more than Bobby Cox, more than any of these other managers, as he is an all-time great manager. And you look at his teams, they're good teams, not great teams, good teams, and that's the compliment I would give to him. And I'm not taking away anything from Joe Torre, but Joe Torre had great teams, whether it be 98 or 2000, whatever Yankees team you would want to select. Bruce Bochy never had the favorite. He had good teams, but he was, when you're looking at this was the first time in his World Series career where you could say, well, his team was definitely the favorite. And they won convincingly. I think it's quite an accomplishment when you look at winning in different decades, winning as the game has changed quite dramatically, and then doing this in 2 different leagues. Though you could say, yeah, there's not much of a difference now between the National and the American. Doing it with the DH, And with the way the game has changed and even the playoff format, Bruce Bochy was already a Hall of Fame manager. They said it during the post game prior to this. I mean, you win 3-5, and now you add a fourth World Series. I mean, his winning percentage in the playoffs is over 600. His World Series record is excellent. And, he's really stands alone at this point when you look at all the other managers in the game. It's just Bochy, especially someone like Dusty retiring, who had so much success, though Dusty was never on the same level as Bruce Bochy. But as the game went on later, I was saying to myself, oh, this is a Bochy game, because no one knows how to manage a bullpen like Bruce Bochy. And Gallen pitched a great game. And then Eovaldi matched him and did not surrender anything. And, he knows how to handle his starting pitchers. He knows how to handle his bullpen. Second to none when it comes to managing pitching staffs. And I just have to tip my cap and say, I was rooting for Bochy all the way this year. I would not have had much of an interest in the World Series otherwise. Diamondbacks had a nice season, but they were the hot team. The Rangers were the better team throughout the season. Did they benefit from the new playoff format and expand playoffs? They did. But rules are rules. Corey Seager won the World Series MVP, and I was joking while I was watching it saying, this time he got a real World Series, because I'm not going to say I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize. That 2020 World Series is an asterisk World Series. It is not nothing. It is something. But to say it's equivalent to a full 162 game season regular World Series where you're playing on the home and the road compared to a bubble, it's not the same. But when you look at the record books, he's won twice. He has 2 World Series MVPs, but this is one that means a whole lot more. I also will say about the Diamondbacks, well done with opening up the roof in Arizona. Hey, it was the closest thing they could have to true outdoor baseball, and it made the series better. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with the Rangers next. What else they do next year. Will they keep on winning? They do have a good thing going. They have an all-time great manager. They have a lot of talent. And they finally won their first World Series. So once more, congratulations. Well earned. It was a long wait. You finally won.